We're ready to consider any options for peaceful agreements based on the realities on the ground.
This is interesting. Now, Russian propagandist calls for urgent end of war due to problems. Russian military propagandists are starting to openly talk about the need to end the war with Ukraine as quickly as possible. The huge losses of the Russian military, which can no longer be hidden, are making a depressing impression on Russians. In a live broadcast on one of the Russian TV channels, retired colonel military observer of Komsomolskaya Pravda, Mikhail Timoshenko, spoke about the internal mood in Russia regarding the war and the situation in the army. According to him, more and more Russians are beginning to think about how many more lives will be lost, and whether it is worth continuing the war amid the chaos with payments and benefits for combat veterans. People are starting to think, well, to hell with it. How many more guys are going to die? We don't need this anymore, he said. The propagandist also emphasized the level of corruption in the Russian Defense Ministry, which has seriously bled the Russian army dry. Russia's total losses since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine now total 600,000. These figures are approaching the level of losses in the initial stages of Operation Barbarossa during the Second World War. The corresponding statement was made by the head of the NATO PA, U.S. Congress member Jerry Connolly, in a conversation with Radio Liberty. According to him, such a high level of losses is a reason for Western allies to draw certain conclusions about the state of the Russian army. According to the congressman, the Kremlin's decision to involve North Korean troops in the war against Ukraine demonstrates the weakness of the Russian army. It indicates that Russian potential is exhausted. The politician emphasized that North Korea has one of the largest armies in the world, but the last time it took part in military action was 70 years ago, during the Korean War. The interlocutor believes that the North Korea expects to gain combat experience for its military during the war in Ukraine. As previously reported in September, the daily losses of the Russian army became the largest during the entire full-scale war. According to estimates by the British Defense Ministry, such dynamics are, in particular, connected with the battles in the Kursk region.
It sounds like that in the press, in the media, and sometimes in the parliament, they suggest stopping where we are. And the president kind of said it in that sense. So what's the deal? People start to spread out internally, right? They start thinking like, well, who cares? How many more guys are gonna die? We don't need this anymore. Besides, it's chaos, isn't it? Considering where service was done, payments and benefits to combat veterans are known, and every case is blown out of proportion tenfold. This is also known, so how can it be? With the same Ministry of Defense mentioned, saying all the generals embezzled all the money in the country. Well, it wasn't Bulgakov who was stuffing chicken instead of beef in jars, and he didn't choose those bulletproof vests. So the stealing started earlier. That means the industry was ready for it. Well, like in the movie, Ivan Vasilievich, Back to the Future. Everyone's dancing, and here, everyone's stealing. That's how it goes.
Coincidence or not, even Putin is talking about peace now. Russia is ready to consider any peace agreements on Ukraine based on the realities on the ground, Putin said. He added it's better to negotiate than to count Ukraine's losses on the battlefield, saying the ball is in their court.
I just said, we're ready to consider any options for peaceful agreements based on the realities on the ground. And I'm not ready for anything else.
Sadly, no one asked Putin, is this mean that he is ready to give up the territory of the Kursk region? Because this is the reality on the ground? Well, maybe next time, if they allow some real journalists there. Lukashenko spoke to Steve Rosenberg from the BBC during the BRICS summit. He told the BBC that Putin would never send the military from another country to fight in the special military operation. That would mean escalation, Lukashenko said. Lukashenko also shared some interesting details about the start of the full-scale invasion. Apparently, Putin was withdrawing his troops but got provoked and ended up attacking Kyiv. It seems a different tale from the official version.
Whisper This is an escalation of the military conflict. Putin, knowing his character, will never try to persuade any country's armed forces to get involved in the special military operation and the conflict in Ukraine, especially as the military people say, what's ahead? Well, on the front line. That is, Igor Olegovich isn't sending troops. I don't believe that. I'm saying for Putin, knowing his character. Russia has a sufficient population to wage military actions. If this is confirmed, does it concern you? It will be a step towards some sort of escalation of the conflict.
At the BRICS summit, someone stepped on Lavrov's foot. It was clear that he whispered an obscenity back. Ever the diplomat.
Perverliği ve davetleri için değerli dostum Rusya Federasyonu Devlet Başkanı Sayın Vladimir Putin'e teşekkür ediyor. Başarılı ev sahipliği dolayısıyla
Reports appeared that Turkey has doubled the tariffs for tankers carrying Russian oil to pass through the Bosphorus, and ticket prices to Turkey for Russians increased tenfold. Is that why Putin had so much trouble pronouncing Erdogan's name?
Спасибо. Слово президенту Турецкой Республики господину Таипу Эрдогану. Режепу Таипу Эрдогану.
When there is such a war in Ukraine, I cannot stand aside. Brittany, call sign Captain, is a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces. She served as a crew chief of a Leopard tank. When Canada donated the first Leopard tanks to Ukraine, Brittany signed a contract to train the crews as an instructor. That's where she met the Ukrainian military. I was very impressed by the patriotic attitude of the Ukrainian tankers and their desire to learn. When I returned from the training, I was overwhelmed with emotions. And the decision to go to help Ukraine came naturally, because I clearly realized that there is a large-scale war going on there, and I simply cannot stay away. I am a professional military woman, and I have to be where my knowledge and experience will help win peace, Brittany said. Now Captain speaks Ukrainian well enough to understand the commander and communicate with the crew. Brittany is a gunner, but she plans to study and learn from the experience of her comrades in order to fight our common enemy more effectively and grow in her career. I will do my best to be effective on the battlefield and help Ukraine be free and independent, the captain added. Source, Communications Department of 25th Separate Airborne Sysyaslav Brigade of the Ukrainian Air Assault Forces.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.